Solano Community College Alternate Media and Access Technology presents an introduction to document accessibility. In this video, I want to go over some of the basic accessibility requirements for instructional material that is used online and via email. Basically anything with digital text on it, you're going to want to meet these standards. These are requirements that the school has to meet, and therefore all the instructors and staff have to meet here as well. So I want to start by just covering some of the very basics. These certainly are not all of the accessibility concerns, but they're the most common problems that are found in documents. So the first thing I want to cover is styles. Styles are these little white boxes over here. You have several. You probably notice these even if you don't use them. And the most common ones that we want to use are the paragraph styles and the heading styles. So if I have my biggest heading on the page, this one at the top, I'm going to highlight it and choose heading 1. That's going to change the font size and color to whatever I have it set in there. And if I want to, I can modify those. So I can do that by right-clicking on the style itself and choosing Modify. So if I want to make that bold, I can do that. If I want to change the color, I can do that. Just depends on how I want it to look. So when I hit OK, it's going to change everything that I have using that heading 1 style. So for the next heading level down here with styles, I want to use the heading 2. So that works exactly the same way. It's just a different font and color. And again, I can change those if needed. Once I get into paragraph text, it usually defaults to that. But what I do want to do often is use bulleted lists. These can be really useful in place of tables where these bulleted lists are really easy for screen readers to read. So I'm going to go ahead and go through this document and make sure that every header uses a heading style and that every item in the list uses bullets. So now I have every one of these sections falls under a easily recognizable header, and everything in that list has a bullet by it. So moving on to font standards. Sans serif fonts are preferred. Those are fonts like Arial or Calibri, things that don't have those little tails at the end of letters like Times New Roman. That doesn't mean that you can't use Times New Roman, especially in academic papers. I know that Times New Roman is often required, and that's okay. But when you're creating something to be distributed to class, it is preferred by accessibility standards that you use a sans serif font. Fonts must be at least 12-point font, though 13 is preferred. That's very helpful for students who are visually impaired. And it must meet the WCAG color contrast standards. Those are rated on single A, double A, or triple A, and double A is what's required. Triple A is preferred, and that just means that it's a really high quality color contrast. So you can check these at the WebAIM color contrast checker, and that can be found here at webaim.org. It's really easy. You just pop in the color code for whatever color you're trying to use, and it will tell you whether it passes or fails that test. In addition to meeting all contrast, you should, if possible, limit the use of colors and different italics, underline, bold, things like that, as they can be confusing to some students who are either visually impaired or have processing difficulties. Moving on to links. Links should be colored a little bit differently than paragraph text, so they're very quickly recognizable. And the other thing is that they should have meaningful descriptions, and a lot of people don't know what that means. So if you just type in the link, that doesn't really mean anything to a student who is using a screen reader. So I'm going to go ahead and link back to that WebAIM contrast checker that I just showed you. And to do that, I'm going to highlight the text that I want to turn into that link. So there's a meaningful description, WebAIM contrast checker. Now I'm going to go find my URL, and that's this right here. Copy that. And I'm going to come back into Word, right click, choose hyperlink, and paste the address. So now the student, as they use their screen reader and they can come through this document, they know exactly where this link leads to. And that's really what's important about that meaningful description. A common misconception with accessibility in documents is that it can't look nice and you can't add pictures and things like that. So you can include images, you just have to include alt text, and it should fall in line with the text. So I've added this image here. To add the alt text, I'm going to right click it and I'm going to go to Format Picture. That brings up this window in the side, and I'm going to go to Layout and Properties. That gives me a box here where I can type in the title and description. The big thing that you want to make sure is you get the alt text description in place. So this image being some digital media tools, that's a perfectly fine alt text description. So I'm just going to write digital media tools. So the image should also fall in line with the text, and that refers to this little box right here under layout options. When I click that, I have options to place this photo however I want. Right now I have it in line with text, but I can also choose in front of text, and a lot of people choose this because it allows them to move it around and place it wherever they want. What that doesn't allow for is the screen reader to really understand where it is. So I want to make sure that it falls in line with text so that the screen reader knows to read the alt text for this image immediately after this bullet right here, and then continues on down the document. So that's really just the tip of the iceberg in terms of accessibility. There are a lot more resources that you can get from the Distance Education Program and the Disability Services Program at Solano. For more instructional videos and additional information on access technology, visit solano.edu/DSP.